I'm gay.
Welcome to Spider-Man on the PS4. Almost certainly the best superhero game ever made, and a true love letter to the classic released in 2004. The game in itself is as basic as they come. The player is put in the shoes of Peter Parker before being let loose on the beautiful Marvel recreation of New York. Like many open world games, the entire game can be judged on three main pillars. The first being navigation, which is an absolute masterpiece. Players can immediately tell that the developers made every effort to make the experience of navigating the city to be as fun as possible. Mistakes are not punished, and more advanced and flashy maneuvers are heavily rewarded, meaning doing what would often be the most tedious activity in most other games instead turns into an experience of getting a dopamine injection directly into the fucking skull. This level of absolute fucking joy is also perfectly balanced with being entirely immersed, as each web is anchored onto a physical point, and in no point during the game does the player ever feel like they've run out of shit to swing from. More advanced obstacles are still included within the city, which only enhances the player experience as they watch Spider-Man effortlessly overcome them in even more stylish animations. The navigation was so fucking good that not once in my entire playthrough did I even consider using the fast travel. It simply cannot be faulted. The second pillar is the combat, which is also just as polished and enjoyable. Fans of the older Assassin's Creed or Batman games will feel right at home, as time dodging and reacting to enemy types is at the core of Spider-Man's combat system. This type of combat is perfect for Spider-Man and is implemented so perfectly that it will make a player wonder how it will be improved with a sequel. The combat starts off as a logical game of when to attack and when to defend yourself, but quickly evolves into a flowing art form where the player can choose exactly how to eliminate each enemy with the enormous number of tools at their disposal. Spider-Man can also use a huge number of ultimates, which are bound to a short cooldown, but many players will find them to be a cheap way to end an otherwise enjoyable fight. Stealth is also an option to take down enemies on occasion. However, it's clear that this is not the intended way to approach each situation. There's simply not anywhere near the amount of depth, and the reward is often not worth the time it takes to meticulously take down the weak grunts that you're likely to encounter. The car chases are likewise exciting and don't overstay their welcome, but are not particularly interesting after the first few times. The real underwhelming sections involve playing as Mary Jane, which is unsurprisingly very bland compared to a member of the Avengers. Other gameplay elements aren't always as interesting, but they do a good job to break up the regular loop. Ubisoft-like towers exist, however, it's nowhere near as annoying when considering the time it takes to activate them. Collectibles play a big part of the Spider-Man experience, with 55 backpacks that can be found around the city. This would be annoying as fuck if they weren't easy to find, provide information on the backstory, and give the player tokens to spend on various upgrades and suits. The game also allows players to assume the life of Peter Parker and everything he gets to do in his day-to-day life. Players can make toast, do science shit, and stand in a line. There's also the uninteresting hacking mini-games that players can choose to skip, but not wearing the suit is mostly just a way to progress the story, which is good for a video game, but still fairly predictable. It was, however, a refreshing change of pace that the game isn't another fucking origin story, and much of what you learn about this version of Spider-Man is told through how he interacts with other characters and the world itself. By the time the credits roll, most players will feel a compelling conclusion that will offer a surprising amount of emotional weight while still retaining a satisfying wholesome charm. The third main pillar of what makes a compelling open world is the details that a game uses to add depth to the space it creates. In the case of Spider-Man, the developers have done an admirable job slowing down and walking onto the ground level. Players can see people going about their lives. Many of them will compliment and heckle you, depending on their stance on superheroes. Others will try to take pictures, and some will give you high fives. However, most of them get absolutely scared shitless when you do anything remotely threatening, and others just want to feel like they are part of something bigger than themselves. Spider-Man fans also have so much to love about this game, as there are an enormous amount of costumes that can be unlocked, and the one featured on the cover art even has an in-universe explanation on why it sports the bold white symbol. Fan service in general in this game is all round brilliant. Players can explore the city and find landmarks such as Grand Central Station, 177 Bleecker Street from Doctor Strange, and Alias Investigations from Jessica Jones. The attention to detail spreads through parts of the game that isn't even expected. Players are able to swim, but will likely get bored after a few seconds and never do it again. Spider-Man owns a social media account with millions of followers. Phone calls can be interrupted and will be continued from the point in the conversation they were up to, and enemies who are thrown off buildings will automatically get webbed before they hit the ground. Although, some aspects of this game may still leave a player questioning their entire experience. Criminals, for example, don't even attempt to hide that they look like dodgy individuals. Spider-Man has a mission that involves him dumping chemicals in the water to make the frogs gay. Players can recreate the pointing Spider-Man meme and be the 7 billionth person to post it online, but truly the most disappointing aspect of this game is there isn't any pizza time theme.